Hey guys, thanks for jumping on to the Family First Live Get to 20K call. My name is Steven. I'll be your host today. Today we have a very special guest, my buddy Jake Konen. I got a chance to meet Jake about 6 months ago, actually, right? When we were in Florida.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that sounds exactly right.
I think that was like his first or second month in the business. And all I kept hearing was Jake's going to break some records. And he definitely has, right? Jake went Hall of Fame quicker than anybody else in the company. So for those of you guys that are like, well, I got started in Family First Life. It's May. I'm brand new. I can't go Hall of Fame this year. Well, you definitely can. Trust me. Jake has that story, and he's going to be able to share it with us. So, but here we go, man. I mean, the man himself is in the airport right now traveling. I think that's part of the training right there. But Jake, dude, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Thank you for having me on today, man.
Yes, sir. So, hey, can you kind of tell your quick story of how you landed here at Family First Life and what you were able to do very, very shortly?
Absolutely. So I was working with a captive insurance agency up in Montana, and it was it was winter of 2020, and I see a post from Easton Patton. I went to college with him about your
Wow.
guys' annual convention and the numbers that he put up. And so I reached out to him initially for help. Like, hey man, how can I write some life insurance numbers like you're writing? And
Right.
the conversation escalated from there. I ended up starting contracting in April and went full time in June of 2020.
Dude. So, okay. So, June, you get fully contracted, you jump in the field. From
Yep,
June to December, what did you write?
489.
So, about a $500,000 in 6 months. That's not a bad gig. And
Yeah.
especially with our comp levels, compared to where you
Unbelievable.
were. Right.
Unbelievably life changing. Yes.
So, okay, great. So, I mean, right now you're a, top two, three agent in the company. What have you learned in the last, six months to a year that has allowed you to write basically almost 100 grand a month? Like most of these guys are trying to write 20 in their first month, right? What are you able to do to write at that such a high of a volume?
Man, I don't think it's anything like super, super fancy or anything like that. It's just kind of going all in with the system that we have, getting more leads than you need. Stay on the phones until you're done, until
Right.
you have your appointment goal, 15, 20 appointments. Run all your appointments with high intentionality and, really expressing the care for your clients that you're sitting down with. And I think that's it, man. I mean, really nothing fancy, just working and keeping a consistent schedule.
How many appointments are you running a week?
I always like to be around 30, but 25 is like, I will not have less than 25.
Gotcha. So like, let's say you book 25, 30 appointments. Someone at your caliber, how many are you sitting on?
Depends on the lead flow that week, but I think if I have 30 appointments, pretty confident I can sit with like 18.
Okay. So that's like the normal numbers that everybody talks about, right? Book 30, sit 20, close 10, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
so you're sitting with 18. Obviously when you're probably closing at a higher clip than most of us, but out of the 18 that you're sitting with, how much do you think you're closing?
Honestly, I've never calculated my closing percentage before, but we looked last week and it was like 47%.
Really? So the
Yes.
top producer in the company is here to tell everybody that he only closes at 47%, not at 90, not at
Yeah.
80, 47.
Yes, sir.
Wow. So like, okay, what are you doing in the home? You think, I mean, how do you set the table with your clients? Like, a lot of people say, hey, today this is what we're going to do. We're going to submit an application, blah, 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 blah. Like, what's your in-home look like? How are you setting the table to write the premium that you're writing?
Basically, I kind of walk in there and just I don't bring anything out of my bag at all. I just like to sit down and figure out why I'm there
Okay.
and justify that. So that'd be like, Stephen, you filled out this form for final expense or mortgage protection. If it's an internet lead, you filled out your information here. What was the purpose of that? What do you want to accomplish there? And
Okay.
really, really just dig in on that. I basically want to keep asking you questions until you like scream at me, like, that's why you're here.
Right.
That's my whole goal with that first part there. And then I'm going to say, okay, perfect. So Stephen, what we're going to do is I'm just going to touch on finances, your health, and any outstanding debts. If it's mortgage protection, we're going to touch on the mortgage, of course, go through all that. And then I'm going to give you some options. That's basically it. And then just kind of follow through with that.
Gotcha. So how deep are you going in their finances when you're doing a financial inventory? Are you trying to break down their budget? I mean, obviously you sell good premium too, but it's not like you're closing every app for 500 a month, right?
Nope.
So what are you doing to establish their budget and all that stuff when you're in the home?
I just like to know about the big bills. I don't want to get through and go all the way down to like a Netflix subscription, because I feel like some people get like a little bit testy about that, So like, do you guys have a mortgage? Okay, if you don't have a mortgage, what's your rent? Because I mean, shelter is always going to be your biggest bill. And then, car insurance. Do you have a car note? Do you have any child support? Do you have any alimony? How many cars do you have notes on? Just the really big stuff. And that'll kind of give me a good projection of, kind of how to deliver a product to them at a certain price.
Gotcha. So, okay, once you do that, are you a top-down sales guy? Are you a 3-option close? How do you lay out the options for them?
So for the longest time, I would literally just give one option.
Okay.
And I would top down close from there, and kind of read the body language a little bit, right? If they're getting a little bit weary about it, I'm going to say, Steven, like, I can tell you don't really like this one, so I don't like it either. The whole point here is to have something enforced when it's needed, not buy something right now that you're just going to have to cancel in a few months because it's too big. So let's bring it down a smidge. Having something is better than nothing. That was my approach for the longest time. And then recently I've been having some pretty decent success with showing 3 options, and then having them circle something and then just moving forward with that like immediately and not even second guessing it.
Do you ever get trouble with people giving you, for example, their social security number, their bank account information? Like, how do you close when they pick an option or, when you show the options?
I honestly just get right into the application. I mean, if you know what product is going to be best suited for them after you go over their health and they circle it right away, I just move right into the application. If it's Americo, I just let them know, hey, Steven, we're going to see if we can get you approved. I think we can. I'm going to go through a page of personal information, have you sign a HIPAA authorization, allowing Americo Financial to access your past 10-year pharmaceutical report. That'll come back and let us know what we're working with. So I like to get into price before I get into the application, just so there's no discrepancies kind of at the end. Like, oh, I didn't think I was buying this today. It's like, no, we're buying this today.
Right. Right. So, I mean, what objections do you get most in the home? Because the other thing I tell people too, it's like the difference between someone that produces at your level versus a regular Hall of Fame producer versus a regular 20K producer is we all get the same objections. Right.
Oh, yeah.
How do we overcome those objections? How good are we at the rebuttals? Right. So like, what do you see in the home and how do you overcome those objections?
I mean, the most common one that comes to mind first is what is the most common one for everybody. The infamous, I got to think about it. It comes in many ways, shapes, forms, sizes, but it's still kind of at the root source. I got to think about it. So I was getting that so much at my last job that I decided to put something in place to address that up front. So like after I tell you what we're going to do at the initial appointment, like, we're going to touch on finances, the mortgage, your health, that type of thing. And then I'm going to say something along the lines of, Steven, most of the people I sit down with after we pick a product and they feel comfortable with the price, they feel comfortable giving me a yes or a no answer on if we're going to proceed with the application or not. Do you feel comfortable doing the same thing as the rest of my clients?
Nice. So like if they say yes and then tell you they got to think about it, how do you overcome that in the back end?
Steven, do you remember you were the one that circled that price there?
Mm-hmm.
And also, do you remember telling me that you would give me a yes or no response at the beginning of this appointment? Because I don't care if you get this or not. I don't care what the price is. Like, I'm good. But you did tell me you'd give me a yes or no response. It kind of just gives you that one leg up there.
Right. Right. So how much pushback do you get when you do that?
Not a ton. Because, I mean, I always try and do it like lightly, not like I'm like, verbally assaulting anybody. It's like, Steven, you told me you'd give me a yes or no response here. Would you mind doing me the service? I feel like I did a pretty good job today.
Right.
Just lay it on them gently, but usually not a ton of pushback. And if there is, then I want to figure out what the pushback is. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be price. They just chose something a little too big. So we just got to bring it down a little bit more.
Got it, man. Well, dude, that's money. And see, one of the things that I think new agents struggle with is they don't understand how to set the table up early enough before you start the entire appointment so you don't get objections at the end. Where if you do get objections, you already hit on the answer, kind of like you said, right? For brand new agents that are struggling to get to that, 20K mark, what do you think is the biggest thing for them? Do you think it's their in-home? Do you think it's the lead purchases, phone script? What do you see? Because you run a big agency too, right?
I think it's, if I had to pinpoint one thing, I would just say pick your activity up.
Right.
That's it. More activity on the phones. Maybe squeeze in 5 to 10 extra appointments over the course of a week. You know, if you're not running Sundays, maybe run some Sundays. Just buy some more leads. Start with that, and then that's going to be correlate to more reps inside the house, and you're going to figure out how your word tracks are going to work best for you.
What does your lead bill look like every single week?
Man, so I have some direct mail for sure. I have some final expense direct mail and some mortgage locked out, but you can't really control when those come in. So you definitely need to have backups. I love working the 1-month-old internet leads because they're not getting bombarded by people anymore. You know, and I've had a lot of success with those recently. They're $4, by the way, and there's a ton of them. The instant internet leads are good. And then also like the older mailers, like the final expense age mailers, they're $1.50. I mean, holy smokes, if you're not attacking those things, I don't know what you're doing.
Right. Those are great. Because seniors love buying more insurance. It's just crazy. You know what I mean? Because we've been on those appointments where we're like, hey, what kind of insurances do you have? And they bring out like 7 policies. And they're like, we're going to buy yours too. You know? But see, when we met in Florida, and this is the part that was fascinating, because we had a few new writers that, you know, were there with us, and they were just writing, you know, 20, 25 grand a month. And they were, you know, they were new in the business, very similar to yourself. And I remember Zach told me, he was like, dude, Jake writes more than them because Jake spends more than them. That's it. What is your monthly lead bill ballpark?
I would say, I mean, weekly, I can be right around 8 to sometimes 12 if I really got to make up for some stuff. Like that's on a weekly basis, you know? So I'd say probably like 20 to 25
20
on the
to
low end, maybe
1,000. Okay. And that's why you write 80 to 100.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Because I mean, I don't want to dial the phones all day long, you know, especially when you have other agents that you need to help. I'd say, between 20 and 25 easily. And
see, this is
for sure.
I'm so glad you said that, right? Because my number has always been 1 to 4, 1 to 5. And I always tell people, like, I'll spend $1 to make 4 to 5. That's always been my number. So if you're saying you're spending 20 to 25 to issue 80 to 100, that's 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Like, we get a lot of agents that buy $1,000 worth of leads, and they're trying to, you know, make 10 grand on that $1,000 that they spend. And I'm like, dude, just spend 2,000 or spend 2,500 to make that 10 grand.
Yep.
The numbers the same. The ROI back is going to be, you know, 700, you know, 7,000, 8,000, whatever it is. Like, if you spend 1,000 to make, you know, 10, like, great if you're that good. I'm not that good. I know Colton's numbers. He's 1 to 4, 1 to 5. You're the same.
Absolutely.
A lot of new agents don't understand. It's just scaling.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, how comfortable were you? I mean, dude, I didn't even spend that much when I was in the field. But granted, I never wrote as much as you did. How quick did it take for you to build the threshold to spend that?
It was extremely uncomfortable at first, but I mean, I would say probably like 3 months. For the first 3 months in the business, all I was doing was running Facebook final expense.
Right.
And so I just kept building on top of that and building on top of that. Cause I mean, I had a couple dial days, just like everybody else, you know, where you're dialing for like 12 hours from like 8 to 8 to try and book up a weekend or whatever. And those are not the most fun days. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start investing $200 extra a week. And that just kept building, and it made my dial days a lot shorter. So I don't have to just hammer the same leads, you know, a million times.
Can you kind of talk about that? Because one of the things that people don't understand is, like, guys like yourself, Easton, y'all don't dial for 10 hours a day. Now, you will do it if you need to, but you guys don't need to, because your lead flow is so strong that you have a ton of new stuff. Right? Like, you spend $8 grand a week on leads, dude. There's no way you're not going to have people that know you're coming. Like, you booked 30 appointments. You're sit on 20 for sure. Right? Can you kind of talk about how simple it is to dial the phone when you have the fresh stuff that comes in?
Yeah, because I mean, it just really removes the emotionality. You know, I think it's a really dangerous thing to underinvest in your business. That's the most dangerous thing you can do, to set yourself up for failure when new agents start out here. You know, if you're comfortable spending 500, you have 1,000, but it's going to make you a little bit uncomfortable, spend 1,000. It's going to give you more leads. And then if that gets you 100 leads, let's say, and one person says no, you have 99 more leads to dial.
Right.
Like, just keep moving forward. All you need is 15 yeses every dial day, and you're good.
Right. Right.
It really removes that emotional bridge, the emotional attachment to like making sure that all those leads answer and have to say yes.
Right. So let's go back to your Hall of Fame run. I mean, you did 480, 490 in 6 months. How big of a learning curve did you have to go through? Obviously, because you came from a capital
Massive.
company, it's not the same as what we sell here. So
not at all.
Right. So like being able to pick the production up, how did you hit the numbers in that short time frame?
I think a lot of that was just because I mean, I knew Ethan prior. It was just a lot of trust there, because I mean, the month that I decided to finally make the switch over here, he did 93,000 in 1 month and then hit VP with only 3 riders, including him. So I was looking around kind of where I was at, and I was like, okay, no one is doing anything close to that. This guy knows what he's talking about. I'm just going to ask him what to do and copy it verbatim without questioning it.
Right.
You know, and you can always make up for your initial investment with action. You know, like even if you suck on the phones, which I totally did, go door knock. You know, there's free leads. There's like an entire block of houses, like everywhere you look, just go hit them.
Right. Dude, that's massive. So like Nugget, for those of you that are on the call, recruit your warm market, because you don't know who's looking, right? As Jake said, he's known Easton. He went to college with him. So that wouldn't be a bad idea to start for you guys. And see, that's the thing, Jake. So we were running numbers, right? I was talking to Zach about this. And let's say you hire 100 people that are cold off, like, you know, job boards, right? Career Builder, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, whatever it is. The amount of people out of that 100 that you can transition to become a writer is like 14%.
Wow.
That's like normal, by the way. That's high. But
Crazy.
if you were to recruit warm market, the chance of that person writing business is like 60%. It's like 4 times as high.
Unreal.
Because they have the trust factor of like, dude, I know Easton.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah,
I went to college with that guy. If that guy can do it, I know for sure. That's how I was. You know, the guy that recruited me, I've known him for 10 years. And the guy that recruited him, I known him for 10 years. So I was kind of like, all right, if they know how to do this, I can definitely do this. You know what I mean? So 100%. For those of you that are trying to build an agency, warm market's not it's not a bad place to look, because they already know you, like you, and trust you. So any nuggets that you would give, let's say you were hiring me as a brand new agent right now. I get started with your group. Let's say we sit down in place and I'm like, hey, Jake, I want to do what you do. Give me the plan. What do I got to do?
I'd kind of just like go through your finances at first, just to figure out what we can do to start out with your initial investment. Right. And I would just have you start attacking the phones right away. You know, so if you don't live in a place close enough to be able to come into the office and like, let me help you dial and get your phone script down, I'm going to have you record them. Because I mean, dials is hands down the most important thing. You cannot get in front of, you have to get in front of people.
Right.
To be able to sell insurance, you have to get in front of people to be able to use your in-home skills and, you know, charisma and authenticity and all that stuff that you bring into the house, us as individuals. So hands down, the most important thing is the phone. So I would just say hammer the phones, and we got to figure out a way to connect on a daily basis with your script, whether that's going to be recordings, Zoom dials, anything like that. I think Zoom dials is like, it's very uncomfortable at first, very uncomfortable to unmute yourself and put your video on and let everybody else listen to you dial. Right. But you have to realize that every time you do that, you're going to be overcoming a mental obstacle that was there, breaking a barrier down, and you're going to get so much better at it.
Right. And you're talking about dialing, and I want to talk about the black sheep in the room or whatever. Yeah. See, this is what was so fascinating, talking and learning about your guys' group. Yourself, Zach, Easton, you guys write a lot. Like, y'all write 60, 70, 80, 93 a month, 100 a month plus. And none of you guys use dialers. Not one. And it's fascinating to me because, black elephant or the white elephant, whatever, dude. I'm sorry. Someone's commenting on that. But what I'm saying is, like, we don't, like, in our group, there's people that are so scared to dial, they won't do the activity themselves to perform at the level that you guys are. Can you talk about how, like, I mean, having a dialer, they don't treat the leads like you do. They're not the ones spending the money. Right. They're not spending $8,000 a week on leads. right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that real quick too?
So talking about having a dialer, so having someone
not
else dial
having
the
a
phone for
dialer.
you.
Like why they suck compared to you doing it yourself, because you guys
Got
all
you.
book for yourself.
Yes, 100%. I think that really shoots your business in the foot from the get-go. Because I mean, especially if you're going to hire, that person is going to come and look to you to teach them everything. So if you can't dial and you're having somebody else set your appointments, they think that you have to do that, you know, and you're not really going to be able to set the example for them very, very much and lose that trust very quickly because you don't have a long time to establish that trust with the people that you bring in. But it also sets the tone for you to walk into the house. So if someone else is dialing with you or dialing for you, that they heard a completely different person on the phone, completely different tonality.
Right.
They might have not have taken it as serious as they normally would have if you were the one dialing it, like taking control into your own hands.
Right.
You know, it's, in my opinion, it's kind of like letting somebody else dictate the outcome of your business, which I don't really like the thought of that.
Right. Gotcha. Brandon Kitchings has a question. He says, what is Jake doing to get his new agents moving faster?
Throwing them out in the field as soon as possible while they're uncomfortable, so they can get through the uncomfortability phase as quick as possible. Get them on the phones as quick as possible. Just act.
Right. Do you get people, I mean, do you wait for them to have all their writing numbers, or they have a few carriers, you're like, let's go?
So they get prosperity first, as you know, right? But
right.
We literally had two guys last week that went out in the field and they had paper apps.
Nice.
You know, and they wrote a couple paper apps. I wrote a couple paper apps to start out as well. I don't think that's a bad place to start it off.
Gotcha.
Just compared to someone being like W-2'd, because like if you start a job and you're W-2'd, it's going to take you 2 weeks to get paid.
Right.
So let's just get you in. Let's just get you used to being out in the field, talking to people, go through the paper apps. Once you get your writing numbers, you're going to get a big fat check from America anyways.
Nice. I like that. Joe Miller says, how do you get new agents with no experience started? Are they any different than a seasoned agent?
Yes. I love the no experience agents a lot more.
Me too.
Because you get to teach them from the ground up. You get to teach them the stuff that works, you know, and they don't have any prior experience. So like no baggage, like holding them back. They don't ever come back and tell you, well, this is the way we used to do things, you know? Right. So if you're bringing somebody in that is licensed, I think being very upfront about that, like, hey man, we have a blueprint that works. This is different. So if you don't want to hold yourself back, literally forget about everything that you used to do and the way you used to go about business. And you can make your own tweaks after you get used to the blueprint here.
Nice. There you go. For those of you that are on the Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them in the chat or the Q&A. Rod Jackson says, how does your aged final expense and aged 1 month old internet leads phone script sound like?
Very simple. I just call to verify information, you know, so it'd be like, hey, Steven, Jake here with the Benefit Center here in Franklin County. Just getting back to you about that life insurance inquiry you sent in. I just need to verify some information with you really quick. You put date of birth was 11/22 of 67, correct? Non-smoker. Got it. So I'm actually the field underwriter. I'm going to be out in your neck of the woods tomorrow and Saturday, helping some other folks out around the corner from you. I just need to drop this information off. You know, are you working, retired, kind of figure out that whole thing, but that's the body of it right there. That's it.
Now, what is your rebuttal when they go, I already got it taken care of?
Perfect. That's going to save me a lot of time. Just have that policy out when I get there. It'll save us like 5 minutes and I can check you off.
Gotcha. So it's not even like you're not trying to replace it on the phone. You're not trying to, you know, dig out and see who the carrier is. You're just like, hey, get it out there and I'll mark it off when I get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One of the ladies on the team said, do you call as yourself or do you call as a third party agent?
I call as myself.
Okay. Have you ever tried calling in third person?
I have not, but I've heard some other people do that are way better on the phones than I am. And I mean, it works for them, but I just like to be me. It's a little easier for me.
Right. There you go. That works. Question from Art is, in your honest opinion, would you direct new agents to the 1 month old internet and aged final expense leads over the instance?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that?
Yes.
Cost,
and they can just get a little bit more they can get more leads. You know, it's that same concept I heard you talk on a podcast with Zach. You know, it's like, if you get 50, you can get 50 instant internet leads, or you can get 100 1-month-old internet leads and age final expense leads. You know, the odds of getting 15 yeses are just a little bit better.
Right.
So I just like to put the numbers on their side from the jump, at least.
Gotcha. Ed, we'll have that on the replay, but Ed asked, can you go through that rebuttal for age leads of, you know, they already have it, right? How do you overcome I already got it?
Yeah, I mean, totally same thing there.
Right. Question from Hassan is, what is the number one nugget you would share with a licensed agent coming into FFL?
Forget everything that you did before, adopt our blueprint, and trust me, it does me no benefit to tell you to do something the wrong way.
Right.
You know, and look at all these numbers of everybody posting stuff up. Is anyone doing that at your old agency? I didn't think so. Okay, so we're going to follow these guys because it works.
Right. Here's a question from me, and you know, I kind of know the answer, but I kind of wanted to share this with the group. How often do you travel to run business?
All the time.
Right.
All the time. I mean, I like to get at least minimum 3 power weekends in a month. That's where I like to have, you know, 25 appointments between Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, sometimes 28. Sometimes if you really kill it, you can get 30 between those 3 days. But you have to incorporate travel trips, because it's like one of those just mental barriers again that you're going to have to break down. And it's going to launch your business to the next level.
Right.
Because you got to spend, you know, $1,000 on a plane ticket. If you're there for 3 days, you got to get hotel, food, gas, rental car, leads. You got to get more leads than you're used to on a travel trip, because you don't want to have to pay all that stuff and not have all your appointments set in too. So you're really kind of laying everything on the line. And plus you're removing yourself from any distractions.
Right.
You can grow constantly the whole time. You don't have your dog barking at you while you're dialing. You don't have your lady or your guy, you know, being like, hey, why are you still dialing? You've been dialing for 10 hours today. Like, what's going on?
Right.
You know, total growth period.
Now I know how Zach sets his travel trips up, and I'm curious to see if you run it the same way. How do you dial and book your appointments for your travel trips?
I dial before I leave.
Okay.
You know, so if it's going to be a travel trip where it's going to be like a 4 or 5 hour drive, you know, I'm going to start dialing at 7:30, dial till 1 o'clock or maybe noon. If I can get ahead a little bit, then I'm going to book it to the next place and see if I can start dialing again at 5 o'clock, you know, 5 to 7:30 or 8 o'clock.
Right.
I always kind of like to have my travel time, including flights, kind of in the later part of the day if I can. Gotcha. Just so I can really attack those dials.
No, now I know, like, for example, Zach's like, when I go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I, you know, get in on a Thursday, but I leave the front half of Friday open, like from like 7:30 to like 10. He goes, my first appointment won't be till like 10. And I'm like, what the heck? That's fascinating. And he's like, the reason why is because from 7:30 to 10, I'm dialing for the following day from 10 to the end of the evening. So he's running business, you know, he's dialing from the front of the house, you know, from 7:30 to 10. He runs the appointment, he gets home, and then he's like, on Saturday, I do the same thing. So from 7:30 to 10, I'm dialing, you know, for the following day. And I'm like, dude, like, that puts a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of work. How do you guys do that? But then again, you guys write all the premium that we don't do. So I'm kind of like, I'm all ears, man. So Brandon said he works extremely hard and invests in this. Right. Exactly. Any other tips that you can give the new guy in the room, you know, for someone that comes in and they don't write 45 grand, 50 grand their first month or whatever, what is your advice for them? How do they, like, let's say they only write 7. How do they get better? Like, what does that feel like going through the suck?
Going through the suck sucks, but you got to embrace it because you're growing.
Right.
You know, you're getting better constantly. And it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose to begin with. You know, you're not going to be able to drink a lot. You're just going to have a ton of water hitting you in the face. You kind of just got to like catch every drop that you can. I think having like a mobile study book with you at all times is massive. So like if you come across something in the house that kind of stumped you a little bit, write it down.
Right.
write the stuff that stumped you, and also write the stuff down that you're getting right as well. So you can recognize when it's time to implement that right action. And it's kind of just builds up like a callus or like muscle memory, if you will, like if you're shooting a free throw.
Right.
How
often did you call Zach? How often did you call Zach and Easton?
All the time.
Right.
All the time. I called Easton in every single house. If I couldn't get through to Easton, I called Zach. I called him after houses. I called him before houses sometimes. I mean, constantly.
Right.
But that's the way to grow. And it made them, I think, a lot better too at explaining stuff, because I wanted to know like literally everything. So I was asking everything all the time. Makes everybody better.
But see, that's the thing that I find fascinating is a lot of people come here and they try to do it all by themselves. And I'm like, dude, like, y'all know we wrote the premium already, right? Like, we've been in the field, know how to sell. Just ask. We'll shorten your learning curve. But a lot of people, like you said, have an ego that want to do it by themselves, and they want to bring what they've learned from a previous company over here, or even a previous industry. Like, well, this is what I did when I was in sales for solar. You know what I mean? Yep. So, gotcha. Another question is, what goals do you set for your new agents from monthly AP to schedule?
So I don't set monthly AP or IP goals for the agents at all. I set weekly and monthly appointment goals.
Okay.
Because everything is going to follow your activity. So like, per month, like for me, I like to have a minimum of 120 appointments, like in a 4-week month.
Right.
Right. And so those are the type of goals that I have my agents set, so they can realize the action that it takes for them to get that desired outcome, because the premium is going to follow, if you're diligent on the phones and, using the phone tracker, some stuff like that. Like, how many dials did you make today, and celebrating those? Like, okay, sweet. Today you made 500 dials. Last week you made 350. How many more appointments did you set?
Right.
Stuff like that, action oriented.
Now, I know, once again, just learning from your guys' group, let's say you, like you said, you have 120 appointments that you're trying to run in a 4-week period. Let's say in week 1, you only booked 25. Does that mean in week 2, you're trying to set 35 to make up for the 5 the previous week?
Yep. And if your schedule's kind of laid out, you can plan for that. Back to those power weekends, if I can get in 25 appointments plus, in a 3-day time period, and then come back again on Monday and dial and try and set between 15 and 20 appointments again, I just got ahead.
Right.
So if something comes up unexpectedly or whatever, you're always going to be able to hit that goal. But yeah, absolutely. If I'm 5 short, I just add it on to the next week.
Right. Gotcha. Well, hey man, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else that has any questions, but this has been phenomenal. I think we need to send this all to our brand new agents, because, it's just, Jake, like what we do is simple. It's just work. It's not like you have a special in-home presentation or a special phone script or even a special lead that we don't have access to, right? We're all using the same stuff. It's just that you're working harder than all of us. That's it. It's almost that simple.
I think it is that simple. And just following the people. I mean, taking guidance from the people that are in a position that you want to be in. Because I mean, back to my closing percentage, it's not even 50%. If I was in school, I would literally be failing every single class.
Right.
Except you're able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars if your action is where it needs to be. You're going to put the numbers on your side. You're going to be able to close at your close rate.
Right. When you have your, like, because you're building an agency, a big one, in your group, how much do you think your weekend production covers the entire week's production? Like the percentage?
Up until like last month, it was like 50%.
At least.
Yeah. And even like the full month, like in March, it was 50%. And this was like the first month where I think everyone kind of just like kicked it up a notch, started believing in themselves a little bit more, bought more leads, have more appointments, all that stuff. And it's kind of starting to come to fruition now, which is a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, because that's the thing that I find that it's crazy, right? Like a lot of people don't work on the weekends. Like we tracked the number the other day, and it's like we usually have, 70, 80 riders a week. And it's like the amount of people that actually booked an appointment, not even sold, but just booked an appointment for the weekend was like so small. And we were just, I was scratching my head like, wow, people really don't work. And for me, it's like when I was in the field, I used to get like 70% of my production on the weekend. I'd write 10 grand on the weekend.
Absolutely.
And then Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd write 3 to 4 to 5. And I'm like, dude, I'm good. I'm at 14, 15 for the week,
Yep.
and it's like, I'm like, it's crazy to me because I'm like, if you don't work weekends, you just basically lost out, in my opinion, 60 to 70% of the money you're supposed to make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Weekends is everything. Because I mean, if you think about it, all the people that work 9 to 5 jobs during the week, they feel like they earned those weekends. They're going to take those weekends off, stuff like that.
Right.
So that's our time. That's our time to go in there and shine. And plus, we're blessed with the ability to be able to run business on Saturdays and Sundays when people are home and they're comfortable and they're in a good mood and they're happy.
Right.
And most of the people you're seeing that you can't book during the week are working people, unless you're working the night appointments. So I mean, they're making money. They got families to protect. To me, it does not make sense at all to not work the weekends. You're not going to hit the numbers you want to hit.
That's the other thing. Like, I was talking to Sean earlier today, and he was like, dude, it's real simple, dude. Like, you can sell full time for a short time, or you can sell part time forever. And I was like, that was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
He was like, some of your guys probably don't want to be in the field forever, as they shouldn't. So guess what? Build an agency and sell full time for a short period of time. Sell for 1 year as hard as you can. You know what I mean? That's why I was like, that's money, man. Well, hey, Jake, any closing remarks that you got for us before we wrap this call up, man?
Man, I just appreciate the time. Thank you very much. And dude, what's SkyPoint at right now? Where are you guys going to finish that in April? Let's go.
So yeah, we're trying. Well, we're trying, so
congratulations, man. I need to get on your level.
Dude, if I can help you with anything, please let me know. Like, use that. You guys are family. So if I can help you with anything, please let me know. And dude, like, you guys are killing it, man. You guys see the best part about this business, Jake, is like, in your guys' group. Like, I was talking to Zach about this, and I was like, you guys write more insurance than like anybody I know. Like, your guys' group specifically. And it's like, in our group, like, from what we learned from Andrew and all that, like, we build teams. We don't write as much as you guys do. So like, when we can bounce ideas off, like, hey, how do you write 20 grand in a week when most people don't write 20 grand in a month? And it's like, you guys are asking us like, hey, how do you guys build your agency this way? And it's like, that's where we get to share ideas, because at the end of the day, even though we're not really on the same team, we're on the same team. We're Team FFL.
Absolutely.
And we're on Sean Mike's team. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely, man.
If there's anything we can do, man, please let me know. And everybody, I appreciate you guys jumping on. Jake, especially you. Thank you for taking your time out the day, sharing the knowledge with us. We're going to get this up and running on, Facebook and YouTube shortly. So thanks again, man. And every single one of you guys, let's have a great week. Let's close out the week strong. 2 more run days. Let's hit our record numbers. We're in May now, so we're almost halfway through the year. If you haven't hit your numbers, let's do it now. All right, let's go kill it, guys. Thank you again, Jake. Appreciate you, bud.
Hey, thank you, guys. Go crush it.